You're watching Public Affairs. Berkowitz is my name and politics is our game. And we will be doing lots of politics and public policy this evening because we have as our guest Willie Wilson, who is one of 8, count them, one of 8 candidates running for mayor of the city of Chicago as of the time we're taping, April 27th, 2018. And you should know a little, Willie's a familiar face. He ran for mayor in 2015, right?
That's correct. And also president.
Pardon?
Also
and also for president in 2016. Willie Wilson, okay? What you want to know about Willie Wilson is that he came here in Chicago, 1965?
Yes, that's correct, 1965.
With like the shirt on your back?
Well, yeah.
A few other things?
Shirt and pants and shoes.
Okay. And then he became a mega millionaire. Would that be accurate?
Well, I became successful.
Successful?
In business, yeah, in business.
In a variety of businesses.
That's correct.
Where'd you start out? When you started at McDonald's, what were you doing?
Mopping floors.
Mopping floors. For how much money?
Emptying can liner for $2 per hour.
$2 an hour. So you went from mopping floors, $2 an hour, to what? What happened next to McDonald's?
Well, now we have a Omar Medical Supply Company. We do a little bit over close to $60 million a year.
How much was that?
$60 million a year.
6 million or 60?
60.
60. 60. $60
Right.
million in sales. Just want to make sure they
That's
got
correct.
that. Okay. And that's Omar Medical Supplies, right?
That's correct.
And then you do a little bit of TV?
TV.
Because I do a little TV, but not like you do. You do real TV. I'm a
do.
pretend TV guy.
Okay. Well, I do television, WGN America, every Sunday morning at 6:30 a.m.
Okay.
And that's our 28th year.
28th year.
Yes.
And it's on at 6:30 in the morning?
6:30, yeah.
WGN every Sunday morning. And what's the name of that program?
Sing Station.
Sing Station.
Gospel.
Is that syndicated?
Yes. Well, the WGN America, yes it is.
So it shows in how many different cities?
It goes international with WGN America, so we're out there, you know.
So you know something about managing business, right?
That's correct, right.
Because you had 5 franchises that you owned, McDonald's, right?
You used to own 5 McDonald's restaurants.
5 McDonald's. You ran those. You had people who helped you, but you initially ran them, right?
That's correct. I initially ran them myself, and we brought on employees to help with it.
And you made money?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yes,
and you made money, and you still make money at Omar Medical Supplies, right?
We're real successful in terms of business-wise. Thank God for that.
And your TV program makes money?
Yeah, but with TV show around, we do that more or less for a community kind of a thing. We whatever we used to make on it, we give it away pretty much to the community.
And that's a gospel show?
Gospel show, right.
You sing?
Yes, 6 CDs out.
Okay.
And I got Remy.
So let's get right to it. You want to be mayor of the city of Chicago, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Why?
Well, the condition of the city. I'm not running for a job or nothing like that.
What's the condition of the city? Why don't we grade it? Well, Rahm Emanuel's been there since 2011. So he's in his 7th year. If he'll be there 8 years if he serves out his full term. And when he ran in 2011, do you remember what he was running on? What were the issues he was running on?
Well, the issue, but overall, the issue he's been running on was fairness to all citizens of Chicago, and that has not been the case. There's 77 communities in the city of Chicago, and some of those communities have been totally neglected. If I give some example, Inglewood, Lawndale area, and Humber Park, and on and on and on. They're just not a black or white issue. It's a whole city issue. For example, I'm visiting 77 communities in Chicago. We've gotten through around about 15 to 20 of them, but before the end of this year, we've been hit all 77 communities for those who allowed me to come in and sit and talk with town hall meeting. And we've done a pretty good job of it. And so the issue out there that this mayor now, Ron Emanuel, been unfair. Here at the LaQuan McDonald's is a total cover-up. Economic, economic equality for all citizens who haven't been there. Raised taxes 8 times, I believe. All right, you got the
Those property taxes that are
property
going
tax,
up?
right?
Okay.
And I help pay people's property tax bill. All right,
You help pay for people who have problems. You just did it voluntarily
I did it voluntarily
to help people who were in trouble and needed some help.
close to $1 million.
Yeah, that's a lot of help.
Yeah, and we're doing it again coming up in the next 2 or 3 months. You know,
Because their taxes are coming due again.
what they come and do again, the legislator, I guess, moved it up from 12 months to 8 months. A lot of people on fixed budget income. Well, they're shorting them out, so some people are losing their home at $159.10.
So, okay, so you're saying fairness is the basic thing. You're saying not all 77 neighborhoods, some are doing well, some better, some not so good. You don't think the mayor's been fair to all 77?
No,
Is that it, or am I missing?
I know he have not been fair.
He's not been fair.
Right. I'll give you some example.
Yeah.
There's over 50. He said there's over 50 some construction train in Chicago.
Over 50 what?
50 some construction crane.
Oh,
over
cranes. Yeah, he
right.
likes to, like Mayor Daley used to always like to talk about there are more cranes up in Chicago
Yeah.
than anything. So Rahm does like the imitation. Well, that was the real Mayor Daley was
Yeah.
Mayor Richard J. Daley, as you say, the real one. And then he was replaced by his son, Richard
Yeah.
M. Daley. But they both like to say, and especially Richard M., they're just cranes all over. And the city's doing well. And how do I know? Because when I drive around, Richie said, I see lots of cranes. And so Rahm now drives around, and I guess he sees lots of cranes.
But when I drive around, I don't see a lot of them. I see them downtown.
You see them downtown.
Yeah, and in the area that are economically blossom. Go to Lawndale, no train.
No cranes.
Yeah. Go to Inglewood,
No cranes.
no train. Go
Chatham, are they some in Chatham?
No train.
Well, what about the Amazon that he says he's touting, he's competing for Amazon? If they get him, isn't that going to be a major distribution center, fulfillment center? Is that going to be on the south side?
You know, I don't know where they're going to be at.
I thought he was saying it might be, well, maybe, Whole Foods came into the south side, right?
But let's not talk about the future. Let's talk about past and present.
Past and present. Okay.
Because the future haven't came yet.
Yeah.
All right. But the past, you judge a person off the past. You know, and the past have not, with all the improvement that he have done, with let's say downtown.
Yeah.
I don't see him in a lot of areas. Crime is very high.
Crime is.
Very, very high.
Especially south side, west side?
Well, they
Some on north side as well, yeah.
Right. They're going on one magnificent mile too.
Yeah.
Crime affects all of us. You know, they'll look at the red light, the bag taxes where they tax everybody. Those things just push people more down and depressed. All right. And so look at the thing that he's doing now in expansion out in O'Hare. If he can take $8 billion, put it in O'Hare, try to improve that, why can't he do it in these other neighborhoods who are very struggling? If he take 48 schools, I believe, and close them down, that's devastating to a population of people in Chicago that now cannot get the proper education unless they walk in 20, 30 blocks. And a lot of those schools that were closed down, a lot of those kids was homeless. Don't think about the disabled, all right? And the people drop out. Now, I say this about Ron, is that I have to give him credit for one thing, though. I give him credit for making me get in the race.
He inspired you to get in the race, is that it?
Right.
Without Rahm, if there were no problems, you'd say you have other things to do.
I have other things to do, right. Now, anybody who closed down 48 schools in a particular neighborhood, I would say they gotta be mentally wrong with them, mentally ill.
You think he's mentally ill?
What else could
It's
you
a
call
strong
it?
statement. Okay, let me play devil's advocate with you, okay? Let me think, could there be reasons why maybe those schools should be closed, but if we'll come to whether something else should have been done in addition. But I think Rahm would say, because I've seen him talk about this before, you may have too, he would say, well, you know, these schools were underutilized. They were built at one time, some of these schools had 1,000 people. Now they have 300. So there's a lot of space that requires heating and upkeep and maintenance, and there aren't enough students there to fully utilize them. Let me just analogize it to, say you had a franchise for McDonald's that one time was built and it was doing very well and it had, 1,000 customers a day. Just picking a number. I don't know if it's realistic.
I'm with you.
Okay. And then for some reason, businesses moved away and that neighborhood wasn't doing as well, and it was down to, after 5 or 10 years, to 300 customers a day. Now, you might try to adjust. You might not close those, but you might cut back on the number of people there because you're not bringing enough revenue to support them. You might cut down on the number of, the size of it. You might lease out some of it. So let me ask you, could he have done that? Because you're talking about these kids who now have to go somewhere else 10, 12, 20 blocks. Say he wanted to keep them so they didn't have to do that, but maybe he could have cut that school sort of in half and rented out some so you're not wasting space. Maybe you have to ask some teachers to go because you've got too many teachers for the number of students you have. I'm just saying, does that make sense to you? And if you were in a debate, would you have maybe said that to him?
Well, there's a different moral issue and non-moral issue.
Moral issue, yeah. Okay.
You got a group of kids, 300 or 400,000 live in the city of Chicago. In this case, I'm talking African American.
Right.
All right. 10%, I believe, was Latina. All right, in the area. But in his area, the wealthy neighborhood and the area that's doing okay, pretty good, in the white area, okay, none school will close down at all, okay? So that doesn't add up. If I had a franchise, a business over here, that's totally different, all right? I make a decision as a business person. Over here, you got 300,000 or 400,000 young men, young ladies going to school that the community was not consulting with thoroughly to make that decision. All right.
So they should have talked to those folks at least.
You should talk to the
get their opinions, their views.
Get their opinion, right.
He didn't do that, is what you're saying.
He did not do that, no, because of the outrage.
In fact, would you do that yourself? If you were the mayor, rather than rely on others, would you go out and talk to those people yourself?
I would set up town hall meetings.
You would. And you'd be at those meetings?
Oh, surely.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Because I care about people.
Okay.
You know, you got to understand this here, that look, when you destroy school, you destroy minds and education.
All right.
All right. When let's say you destroy a business that you close it down, that's just that business closed down, but it ain't. It's not a human being, you know. So human beings are totally different. You talking human being versus business.
So
right?
So we kind of covered the school closings. I mean, there's more to say, and if we have more time, and I hope you'll come back and we'll go and do more.
Right.
But now let's talk about CPS in general, which is about 390,000 students. It's probably 80% minority, African American, and Hispanic, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And a lot of those schools and a lot of those kids are not doing so well. I don't think because there's anything wrong with them. I think they're living in very tough circumstances. You know, they're living in homes where there's a certain amount of violence. There's not always two parents. That's fine. If there's one parent, there may not be a parent who's very involved. So they need some help. And with some help, I think those kids can do really well. We've seen that when kids get help, if they're not getting all the resources they need, they can do well, right?
That's correct. Let's look at it this way. I don't fault those neighborhood, the kids or the parent totally by itself, right? Here's why. Ron, the mayor of the city of Chicago, had to take some responsibility for that. If you look at 27.3%, I'm sorry, 27.3% African American is populated in the city of Chicago, 27.9% Latina in the city of Chicago, 32 point whatever
white.
Okay, right. So the minority make up
the majority. It's
majority,
the minorities are the majority.
Right. Then you look at the contracts.
Right.
You know, empowerment,
Contracts that are
jobs, and things like that. less than 7% of the contracts go to African American. Less than 12% go to Latina. All the rest go to white.
Okay, so
Now,
it's like
and
20%, they're 56% of the population, and they're getting less than 20% of the contracts, is
Right.
what you're saying.
Right. So but the tax, so the contracts and the job, if you're gonna do it fairly, equality, representation of the tax dollars, that means that those particular group should have the contracts and the job. So if you don't put the money into a community, you starve a community, you bleed it to death.
Should we always do things by proportion? So if there are 56% of the population who are a minority, should we always make sure those 56% get the contracts?
I would say yes.
Or would there be any reasons why they, benign or acceptable reasons why they wouldn't?
Well, if you don't put the resources there, you cannot advance.
So you got to figure out a way to get those resources there.
If look, as your mayor and myself in a year from now, okay?
Yeah.
I'll put the resource in those 77 communities reflect the base of the tax dollar that is spent. If I go to a store and buy a loaf of bread and pay $1 for it, I expect to get a loaf of bread. All right?
Right.
Not one slice of that loaf of bread.
So you think you can, as the mayor of the city of Chicago, by spreading these contracts around, you can bring about more economic development that's broader across 77 communities?
Absolutely right. I don't think I know.
You know.
Yeah, because the fact is that if you bought my tie here for $1, just saying my tie here, and you paid for a whole tie, but if I only gave you that much of a tie,
right,
there's an issue.
You're getting shortchanged.
Right. And if you bought, let's say, let me give you another good example. If you bought $100 worth of food at a food store, right, and you want $100 worth of food, but what happened is that somebody over here don't have food, and you're starving people to death because they don't have the contract or the job, and that person can't study at night because they're hungry. When they get to school the next day, they're still hungry.
Right.
You know, so they can't.
So you need a holistic approach, is what you're saying.
What I'm saying is that, right? You don't put drugs in a community. You replace the drug with job and then contract and make sure those things happen. And here's the other thing: you arrest those young men, and those young ladies, all right, for using marijuana, drug, things of that nature, all right? But you don't arrest the people who bring them in. Don't
The
make
sellers,
sense.
the pushers,
Right.
the people who are really the source of the
Right,
problem.
right. But yet you take the resources out of it.
Why don't you arrest the people who bring it in?
I would do it, but this
Why
mayor,
aren't we doing it?
Well, this mayor has.
Is that like the state's attorney though? Who, I mean, you got the police force, but the police work with the state's attorney. They even work with the U.S. attorney.
The mayor controls the police department.
Yeah.
And I will also make it, not go a little further than that, I will also make sure that it is an elected school board, not
You think that's good?
strong in, all right?
Okay.
Because if you elect a school board, then the people make decisions themselves for their own livelihood and their
You
own
think
school.
they'll be more accountable?
That they would be.
Well, let me, because we only have a certain time, and you've kind of alluded to an issue which we haven't covered. We've kind of covered jobs, covered contracts, we've covered schools. We'll come back, I hope, for a second shove. We've scratched the surface. But what area have we obviously left out that's like key to all of this stuff?
Well, I think you got to look at the police department.
The violence.
Right, the violence.
The guns, the violence, the
clean
gangs.
the record of people so they can get out and get jobs. Watch, expunge their record for nonviolent misdemeanor and things of that nature.
How do we make the area, look, every area faces some violence. We all have some crime.
Yeah.
But let's be grown up about it. There's way more crime on the south side and on the west side
That's correct.
than the north side. And these are areas that are largely populated by minorities.
That's
right?
correct.
And the victims of crimes are minorities.
Yes.
So it may be black on black crime, Hispanic on Hispanic, whatever. But the real victims here are not so much whites, they're minorities. So if we could make them safer, the main beneficiaries, I think, of these areas being safer would be minorities, right?
Yes, if you put the contract in a job and economic equality, you're
So
absolutely
it's
right.
jobs. You think those jobs will reduce crime because what, kids won't get involved in gangs as much? They may be able to get part-time jobs instead of becoming a part-time pusher of drugs and
Well,
stuff.
I know for a fact, we bail out and got a bill passed, nonviolent and misdemeanor.
Yeah.
Those kids was in jail for a year, 2 years, 3 years, nonviolent misdemeanor.
And
Make that
they're
clear.
kind of learning crime when they're in jail, right?
But what they done was this here.
Yeah.
They couldn't get out because they didn't have $100 to get out.
Yeah, so
So when I went back
You
and
got 'em
asked
out.
them
You got 'em out.
why they went back into that,
Yeah, yeah,
well, they told me they need a job.
yeah.
Because drug doesn't pay, they don't have $100 to get out.
So what about Eddie Johnson? He's the new, she's the new, well, he's not new now, he's been there about a year, right? Okay, maybe longer, I don't know. Can't lose track of this. But, you know, he's been talking recently, gun violence and homicides went way up in 2016, right? In Chicago, especially in the South and West Sides.
Right.
And in 2017, they've come down, or they came down, not completely, but there was improvement. Would you concede that?
Well, I haven't seen the number, but I would say this much.
I mean, Eddie says that, so I'm going to take
Well,
him
I
at his word.
mean, look, I
He says they cite numbers.
Well,
Mayor
look,
cites numbers.
I don't know whether he's saying that because of Ron told him to say that. Ron controlled everything else.
Well, we can check the numbers. We should check.
Oh, okay, right.
I think there's a lot of evidence that crime came down. We could do a separate show on that. But for the moment, let's assume that's right.
Okay.
It didn't come down to like, number one, it's not good. New York is better in general. They were better before, they're better now. There are other cities. So I'm not saying, you know, hallelujah. I'm just saying it's a bit better. And now he says, he just spoke about this recently at the City Club, and Eddie Johnson says a lot of this is strategic decision support centers. He calls them SDSC. He says it's using technology to find out more about what's happening, communicate that to the cops. They know if something's happening in real time, if there's a robbery, if there's a rape, if there's a homicide, they can get over there quicker. And also they know where these things are likely to be. We've said South and West Side is higher. They start knowing the specific blocks, I think. I might be exaggerating a bit. My point to you is, and the question to you is this a way to go? Do they deserve some credit for doing this, or should they have done this 5 years ago?
I see things differently. I see it totally differently.
You see it differently? Okay.
I instead of putting, I think somebody put $10 billion, whatever it was, last week, a week before last, a person did.
Gave some money, yeah, Mr. Griffin, I think.
Right,
Gave,
right. I see you don't have to do all those things if you put jobs and contracts.
I see.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to spend all that money over there.
You don't have to do as much for police. Because like Eddie was
Right.
saying, they brought in 1,000 new police. You're saying you don't need 1,000 new police.
No, but start putting 1,000 jobs and see what that'll do.
1,000 jobs would do more than 1,000
Right,
police.
and start doing $10 billion worth of job, you know, in the community versus policing,
Okay.
and see what that would do. You won't need the policeman, you know. That's the approach that I would take, because if you're hungry, you got to go out and find food somewhere. If you're full, you don't have to do all this. All right.
Well, let's do sort of a rundown here. Let's do a rundown of the field. Let's give people some perspective. As I said, there were 8 people. So this show is about, I want it clear, this show is about Willie Wilson. We hope the others will come on and we'll make the show about them.
Well, okay,
But
fine.
I want you to give us a sense of where you think you fit in this field. Because the voters want to know that, because they're looking at you and saying, should they vote for Willie Wilson, right?
Absolutely.
So let me ask you, the voters may not know this. As of today, first on my list is Willie Wilson. You're there. You've been there almost, 3 weeks as an official candidate, right?
I think a little bit. Yeah, let's say a month.
Well,
now.
about a
2
month,
months,
okay.
Right, 2 months.
And but you've been doing this before. You've
Yeah,
been thinking about these issues. Okay. You're not like just the new kid on the block. You've run
Right.
before. When you ran before, you were the new kid on the block, and they were doing political things to you and keeping you off the ballot and all that. They're not doing this so much because now you're a little better. You've gained a little experience
Well, I
and knowledge.
would think so.
Right.
Cost me $1.5 million.
This is not your first rodeo. At this
No,
point.
it's not.
Okay, so Also, there's Dorothy Brown, who recently jumped in. You know Dorothy?
Yes, I know. I supported her when she ran her office you have now.
Circuit Court of Cook County
right,
clerk, right?
Yes.
You like Dorothy?
Yeah, I love her. Yeah, I do.
So you're an elder statesman. I don't mean that in disrespectful. I mean, an elder statesman is a wise guy. I don't mean like a wise guy. I mean a wise person.
Regardless of what color you are, you give me respect as a human
No,
being.
I'm saying because you're an older, you're a senior person, you have some wisdom, you have some experience in this group.
Yes.
You're probably the most senior, and Dorothy's coming second. She's 64. Paul Vallis, you know Paul? He's also. You three are the seniors. And I say that in a positive sense.
Right,
you folks have accomplished things.
Yeah.
You have experience. You have wisdom. Okay. What do you think of Paul?
Nice guy. I invited him to my home.
Yeah.
And he came. I invited Superintendent McCarthy, and he came.
So you sat down.
I sat down and talked with both of them.
What'd you do? Why'd you want him there?
We had conversation about making sure that when we run for this office of mayor of city of Chicago, that we would give the people what they wanted, not the negative comments. Let's talk about issue. How do we solve the problem together?
Be positive.
Positive, right? Okay. But we did agree on one thing.
What's that?
That we all have one thing in common: to get rid of Ron Emanuel.
Okay, and so people should know this is the way this is run. The election is in February, right?
Yes.
2018.
2019.
Excuse me. Thanks for the correction. February 2019. So we're talking. Right now. We've got about nine and a half months left.
That's correct.
Okay.
Roughly.
And then the people, if somebody gets over 50%, it's over, right?
Well, we expect to get 51%.
So you win them. If
Yeah.
not, it goes to a runoff. We only got a few minutes left, so let me round this out. So you got the three: Willie Wilson, Dorothy Brown, Paul Vallis. Then you got an age. You got Rom, current incumbent. You got Gary McCarthy, they're both 58. And then you got three sort of younger guys. And Gary McCarthy was actually the superintendent of police under Rom, so he knows Rom. I don't think they're going to be supporting each other, but they know each other.
No.
So Troy LaRaviere, I may have gotten that wrong. He is a principal, head of the Principal Association, CPS, in his 40s. Neil Solis Griffin, 30, a young tech entrepreneur. And Hamal Green, 22. That's the field, folks. And if nobody gets 50%, the top two do a runoff, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so we got like a minute left. What have we missed, Willie? What is it that they should know about Willie Wilson that is something, when they think of who should run this city, who should be mayor of the city of Chicago, what do they have to know about Willie Wilson?
Well, I have to know this here. The other people are going to tell you what they can do. I say, look at my record, what I have already done. And that's WillieWilsonForMayor.com. The other thing that I've hired hundreds of thousands of people, business. I had to balance the budget because there was no other way to do it to make my business successful. All right? The mayor you got in there right now, Ron Emanuel, he raised the taxes when he want to get things done. All right?
You're not going to raise taxes.
I'm not going to raise taxes.
Why are you going to cut taxes if you can?
I get in that phrase, but I'm not going to raise them because you raise taxes, you run people out of the city. After a while, you have a ghost town.
They go somewhere else and buy their stuff. If it's cheaper to get in Indiana, they'll go to Indiana.
Indiana and those things.
Wisconsin, wherever. You don't want to chase them away.
No, I will not chase them away. I said my experience through life, working hard, to now.
We're at a time we got to cut this abruptly.
Okay.
I hope you'll come back.
Invite me back.
I just want to remind folks, you come back every week to watch Public Affairs, but not to watch Berkowitz. He's nothing. To watch people like Willie Wilson. And we hope the other candidates for mayor will come on because there's something, Willie's something, and you just keep coming back, and I think you're going to see Willie Wilson here again, right?
Absolutely right. You'll see him as mayor in next year.
Thank you so much, Willie.
Thank you.
All right.